Okay, so we've moved on quite a bit, I suppose. What we've actually done, we've put the glasswork on, pretty straightforward, we've done it 100 times before. We used actual gator glue to put it on, so obviously smearing it around the outside, it goes on and it dries crystal clear, and it's pretty tough to get those in. The only thing we've done just down here, you probably see these curved ones, we've used a little bit of mask oil. So in this case we've used the old Humbrol stuff, but anyone's type of mask oil is great for doing curved surfaces and doing them in. Now, as you can probably see if we bring you in, it's pretty complex, this masking, okay, and going through them all like that. And obviously we've done the ones underneath here, under the front, and the ones around the back and everything else. Now, the way that it actually works, it's very nice that Eduard do their own masking sets. Okay, now these masking sets are absolutely fantastic. Cut perfectly, you know, really, really nice. The only downside is they're extremely complex to get them on. Hence you get sheets just like this, which explain, like, here's the turret, this is the back of the turret, all the ones and how they go in there and all the things like that. So what you really need to do, you go along with your sheet, find where your one is, and then just very carefully put a blade underneath it and lift it up, okay, and it should come off in one just like this. And then you go around and then find the lines, okay, and they can be a little bit hit and miss, some of these actually, of where they're to. Push them in, and there we go, job done. You get it in there. If the camera can lock in just a second. Okay, there we go, that lock in just like that, okay, and it gives us our parts in there. Great, but very, very time consuming. Another way you could do with this, just take your Tamiya tape, put it in and cut it on itself. Now sometimes I actually do it that way, especially when you're doing ones where you've got lines going across like this, because to try and line them all up is really, really hard. So what you can do is put a strip on there, then using a template, like so, you can place it on top, okay, and then following the line in there, cut them in, okay. Another way of doing it is to actually put them on before you stick it down. That way you can put it up to a light source, okay. So what you tend to do is, you know, pretend this is something light. A mobile phone is absolutely great for this. Take your mobile phone with the light on it, you can place it on, you know, your actual film comes to a clear part, goes through, you can see exactly how it is and everything else. So that's a nice little tip for doing that. That way you can mask it up, reposition it as you need it and everything else, and it'll probably be a lot more even. Even this is, some of them are slightly out. You know, are the dies wrong, or is it my cutting? Not quite sure. Anyway, it's a very, very long, very, very boring job, so I'm not going to bore you going around with all of that. So anyway, we've got those on, we've got the turrets put together, because obviously they need to be done. We'll paint them separate, they can go on as a separate fit afterwards. One thing I will mention as I was going through, now coming up for the tail planes, we've got the tail planes here. We've got these, now you can probably see them there, these very, very nasty ejector pin marks. Okay, now they're in the inside, but it's just a real pain because not on the outside, absolutely fine, they are in the inside. So all I do, using a thin, quite old sanding stick, okay, we just come in like so. Okay, I'll do this a little bit more coarse just to speed this up, but we just pop in around them, just sand them down. That's one. Okay, they're slightly raised but sunk at the same time, if you know what I mean. The way that it comes out of the mould and snaps out of the mould, some of it's raised down, some of it's sunk, but I have found if you just pop over it, sanding stick just like that, onto the finer side on there. You have to be careful because there's quite a lot of detail. Then let's use the sanding sponge right the way over. That way we won't damage too much detail by using the thinner ones. If we'd come along with a normal sanding file, you would have obliterated quite a lot of it. Okay, so we've gone around it just like that. And then what you can do, you can just pop in with a polisher. Okay, pop along with the polishing side just to start with. Okay, this is just a quick job, obviously we did it a bit better. Okay, on like that, then hopefully you can still see where all the lines and the guides are. Right, okay, so you can just pop along, then pop your templates in, P cutter, and just the ones which have been knocked out, you can put them back in. And there is a couple of curves, and I found this to be quite handy. Okay, hold it down nicely. It has the right type of curve to it. and you can put them in, but obviously with a bit more time you can put in those details which stand it out. But this is the one we've done already, and as I say, it was just really annoying because, you know, now we're absolutely fine with it, no problem at all, but before, boy, it was, you know, it's just really annoying to get an ejector pin mark like that. Now if you want to put these on now, it's totally up to you. Okay, now the thing is, these are going to fit in like so, I do believe, and they're quite a nice fit. Going to go on just like this, but because of painting it might be easier just to pop them in afterwards, certainly depending on the colour schemes you're going to be doing. Some are black or over, so it'll just be easier to paint them as an afterthought. So we'll keep them to one side. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go around, do all the masking, and then what we can use is bits of foam like this for popping into doorways so you don't get any spray go down there and everything else. These turrets and everything, to say, will go on afterwards, so we will cover them up that way. We can clean out glass down here in the front afterwards if we need to. It's just this cockpit area we can't get into anymore, it's done. So we'll get those bits done, finished off like that, and then we can get ready for painting. Okay, so we've moved on a little bit. We've got the spray bay sort of cleaned up here and everything else. Now what we've done, we've gone around and we've put some foam, you can probably see it in these ones, into the actual area. Now the thing is with the foam, obviously two things: it stops it getting in there, and it's quick and easy to do rather than trying to mask it up. You can just poke it in the holes. So what we've done, we've gone around, we've put foam down in the underside, obviously, then obviously we've got it into the wheel wells and everything else. Now the thing is, we've got in here, the engines are quite tricky, so they are hollow in there, you can see them, but obviously we'll be spraying down. All that is, bit of paper rolled up. As it expands, bit of tape just to hold it in place, and it puts them in there and makes great quick and easy mask cones for this going on. Now obviously we will have to be a little bit careful with them, but I don't tend to be shooting paint down there. So we've gone round, we're very happy with how it all is, and to be honest, it's been a couple of days since I touched this. So what I've done is we've gone round, we're just making sure it's got no dust on it or anything else. So we're just going to turn up the compressor, nice high air pressure, and then we can just blow any dust and debris out of anywhere. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take some, I've just got some grey paint here. This is just acrylic grey paint. This is XF82 if you're honest, but it could be absolutely anything. Then what we do is just going to pop some in there. Come in with some acrylic thinners. So it's just a 50-50 mix of air and thinners. And then there's my little mixing brush. I've got a little brush here somewhere. Then all we got is my little mixing brush. We just mix the two colours and the paint like that. Now a lot of people ask why I use grey paint for priming. There is nothing. I've used green before when I've been out. It's just that I tend to use what I've got a lot of. I don't buy cans of primer as such, okay? I just tend to use what I've got a lot of. In this case, just happens to be I've got a box of 6 of the ocean grey colours, and I thought, well, not doing that many of them, I'll use them up. Okay, so we check our flow. It's a nice smooth airflow as it comes out. Then all we're going to do is just pop this down over the wings, right the way over the plastic. Now obviously it's a twofold thing. First of all, we can see if there's any blemishes. Make sure we've got any marks in the paint, anything else like that in the plastic. And to be honest, the top of this wing has got a few little scratches on it, I've just noticed, which I hadn't noticed before. Okay, make sure you spray things like leading edge wings, and you can see how they're looking, see if you've got any joins on the side of these engines. So we do have to be a little bit careful because we're high air pressure. Okay, and then obviously we can work our way over the body and everything else. So using the grey paint, what that actually does, when we come along with other colours, like pre-shading and things, it just makes them stand out a lot better. Okay, now if you're obviously using a very dark colour, it wouldn't show through, but because we've pre-shaded all the glass parts already, they've all been done with black, we won't have any problem with show through. But what we can do when we go around, especially around the front here, we'll be able to see exactly how good everything is, and the rescribing work and all the bits and pieces. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to carry on spraying this around. Remember, when you're spraying it, if it's looking too wet, just cut to air, dry it down. Okay, we don't want big runs and dribbles and everything else. The great thing with acrylic, we can dry it off quite quick, but we don't have to be too perfect about doing this. This is literally just the primer coat, so as long as it's on there smooth and we've got no runs, and then we can then let it dry off for half an hour, come back, have a good look at it, see if there's anything we need to change, alter, anything we're not happy with, and we can take care of them. Okay, so now we can get on totally dry, all smooth. So we've gone along and we've had a look at any scratches to see if they're, you know, deep or, you know, we can get away with them. We're pretty much all okay everywhere. So what we've done now is we've started going around pre-shading. Now pre-shading is literally just a simple way of breaking up block paintwork, giving it some weathering, okay, and just sort of really sort of give it a nice shadow effect between the panel lines and different panels on the aircraft. Very, very simple, really easy to do. So all we've got is some flat black paint, 50-50 mix. Okay, now you might want to turn your air pressure down. All we do is follow around all the panel lines. So this first one, we're going around the front. Okay, now don't worry if, you know, it's a little bit wonky, it's a different sizes, things like that, because at the end of the day, no two panel lines are ever going to look the same on the real aircraft, and also it will break it down. If you do perfect panel lines, grid form, almost all over the aircraft, it will look too gridified, if you like. You need it to break down, so don't worry about if you're a little bit wonky with your panel lines. But basically my rule of thumb for doing this is that big panel lines get lots of paint. Okay, little panel lines get very little paint. Okay, so the thinner the panel line, the less of the paint it gets. So basically we're just going to go absolutely everywhere. And as you can see, sometimes the airbrush, it phases out as it comes through. So if we just bring you in a little bit closer just here, I can show you on this wing. So all we're really doing is, oh, another little tip, if you get a paint pot, put it underneath the other wing, okay, and wedge it up. It stops the wing flapping around when you're spraying it. Okay, check your flow, blow it all out, okay, pop it on and just follow it down. Obviously, using little paint, but it's like a balancing act. Obviously, if you're too close, you'll get spiraling. You're too far away, the pattern will be too wide. The less air, the closer you get, the tighter the line, okay? So literally you can just pop in quite hard lines, and then what we'll do is pop it on down the bottom here. So all we're going to do is like a sawtooth action, up and down all the panel lines. When we get little boxes and things like that, we just go square. Okay, we're just going to run back over them. Every now and again, just blow out your paint. And then work our way all the way over. So say, don't worry about your thickness and if it's wonky and everything else, and that's how you're going to work your way all the way over the entire aircraft, like we've done on the underside here. And as you can see, you've got different types, I've got different bits on there, let's say quite heavy ones around the bottom and things like that. The great thing about this is what we can do is that once we finish spraying on here, okay, you can come along and do these, just tidy these up a sec. That you can, if you've gone too heavy with a panel line, perhaps you put one in too big, it's really, really thick and ungainly, okay, then what you can do in a moment when we come along with our paint is literally just put too much paint on to fade it down, so you're almost overcoating it far too much. So just tidy up these little panels. But just remember, if your airbrush starts to play up and not playing ball and everything else, just come away, come up to a piece of paper, blow it all out, pull it all through. That way it'll clean all the junk off the end. The other thing as well is keep an eye on the end of your nib, okay? Because you do get build up. Now obviously this one here, we've got the 2-prong nib on it, okay, but sometimes you get a little bit of build up on that end. You just keep it clean, because if you get any build up on the end there, it causes a little vortex, it spits and will affect your spray pattern. So it's just a quick easy way of doing that one. So I'm going to carry on now, going right the way around the model, putting in all these panel lines. Okay, at the same time we're going to do them to everything else as well. So certainly we're going to do these ends right down there, as well as any other bits that are going to need it as well. So anything else that's going to need pre-shading or any type of weathering gets painted right now. Okay, so there's the pre-shading all completely finished and all done. So we're happy how they come out. Now what we can do now is spray the underside. Now it's pretty straightforward because it's just grey on the underside, and with the pre-shading and this type of scale we don't have to worry too much about going around and patching and lightening panels and things like that. You can do if you want to go over it, but because it's quite thin and not much room, you're not going to have too much problem. I think by the time it's had a wash and some pigments and things like that, it should be really fine. Now normally, you know, you look at your instructions and it calls out for your various paints. In this case, it's H53 if you're using the guns, or you've got your neutral grey if you're using Tamiya. Unfortunately, I'm out of everything apart from the one colour I have got. It is in the Model Air version, which is 050 colour. Now the thing with this, it comes pre-thinned in a bottle. You just squirt it into your paint cup and away you go. But I always like to add a little bit of thinner to it. Now the reason for that is it just helps it flow better and everything else. Now it's quite an old bottle, this one, that I've had literally lying around about a year and haven't used it, so it might be a bit spitty and things like that, so we'll have to see how we go. So really there's no areas we have to worry too much. We literally have to put this down, and already it's spitting around a little bit, so we're just going to clean the needle up a little bit, check our flow. What that is lumps and bits in the area. Now I'm just literally going to pulse this over just to build it up, and as you can see you get the pre-shading it come through. So if we just bring you in a bit, you can see what I mean about this. But as you see, you've got to go, but as it dries it will come back. So if we dry it off, just cutting to air, it will come back, be quite dark, but you can pick, you can see up this end, so you can go over, but you can stop at any point and say no, that's enough for me, I'm happy how that is. So we just build that up again, nice light coats, keeping it dry, okay, and then if I just cut the air and dry it back, you can probably see it will all come back again, but that way you can make it up. I want this to be quite grubby and quite faded, so we're going to stop at that, and we're just going to carry on round the rest of it. So say I'm using sort of pulsing movements to get this to go on. In the wheel wells, okay. Just trying to lay this paint on as even as I can go. Okay, and there we go, that's that wing done. So we've got to do these edges, so quite heavy on these edges, because what we'll do is we'll cut in our lighter colour and bring them up. But there we go, that's that wing done. As you can see in there already, you can just pick out anything that's a little bit too heavy, you can take care of just like that. So then what we can do, we can work along. Now if you look at your references, it's just the thinnest sliver along the bottom down here that actually has it. So what we're going to do is just going to put in a rough type of line right the way down like this, okay, and then we'll just flip it over. And we'll just do our underside, so we'll do the tail planes down the back, right the way around how we do this. So I'm doing this quite quickly, normally you take your time. Just underside of those wings. Okay, and what we do is just go slightly over how we want it to be, and then that way when we come along with our paint we can cut it in, okay, so we can actually freehand the line exactly how it goes along. So this works real well. Spraying wing. So say, as soon as it looks too wet, cut to air only, and just dry it off and all spray it down there. So I'll carry on putting this light colour on everywhere. Okay, so the grey coat is now dry. Now, to be honest, I should have left it a lot longer. It's not exactly 100% dry. It's only been on there for about half an hour, so I'm taking a bit of a risk moving on with it. What we've done, we've put some masking tape just down, because what we need to do is these areas just down here and here, so we get a nice crisp, the grey of the underside. So what I'm going to do for this, something slightly different. Obviously, we know they're olive drab all over the top of these types of aircraft, but I'm going to be using the Extra Acrylics XA1113. Now, this is faded olive drab. Must admit, first time I've used it. So what we're going to do is thinners in first. What I'm hoping to do is to be able to put this down and then post shade it afterwards. That's if this all goes according to plan. But that's the plan with it. So we just popped it in the colour cut. Good old mix around. Remember, thinners in first. Okay, I've got a little bit of grey paint also left over on my paintbrush here, which isn't going to hurt at all. Certainly looks like olive drab to me. So we'll just check our flow. If I'm honest, it's a little bit watery, but that's not going to be so much of a bad thing because we can build up the layers. So okay, starting very slowly. Okay, air and just pulling back, and we're just misting in this underside area up to the bottom of the Bombay. Literally, we are just putting it in just like this. Okay, and we'll do a couple of passes. Same with this rear one here. As I say, because all we're trying to do is take it on this area. So don't go blasting the bottom, because obviously that is going to be grey. So we're going to put in a small little line just for the minute, and we can sharpen it up later. So it's supposed to be a bit wonky. Okay, just down there. Okay, gun turrets coming off and everything. Okay, so same on the other side. Right, okay, now we need to make a decision. Now the green actually comes down right to the bottom of the actual Bombay itself. Okay, so that is your line you need to work to. So we're going to follow that line and use that as the example area. So we're going to put down some green. Have a look. Okay. Same on this side. Okay, that's why we put caps on things, so we'll move them over. Now to me, it's looking too faded, okay? So what we're going to do, I think, I'm going to put all this down everywhere, and then I'm going to come back and do little panels and everything with the darker green, the actual original olive drab. Because to me, even though I'm building up the layers here, it's still looking quite, well, more than faded, shall we say. And don't forget, you don't have to worry too much. If we do go too much here, we can obviously put in some grey back in there, but it's just for the moment to protect this underside of the wing and everything else like that. So flipping it over, what we can do, we can literally just pop in now and spray top half of this. Way over. Now Extra Acrylics is a gloss, so it's going to be quite shiny. We can just build up the layers and we can get the coat on there. Spray this down the spine. And what I'm going to do, as I say, I'm going to probably pop in with the other colour. So we're just trying to put in one coat first and then we can come back with the next. So we're just smoothly building up the paintwork. Tops of the engines, we'll do the sides separate. So we're literally just trying to pop in. So as you can see, the pre-shading is there, noticeable, but I'm not going to get in there too heavy at the moment. I'm going to work on that in a moment. Because I've got a bit of a plan for this, I think. Just another coat going over here. Okay, I'm going to put green again, no point hanging around, onto the other side, and then I'm going to switch colour to the deeper green to go round and take care of some areas. Okay, so there we go. That's the get that done, the paint work done. Now you can probably see different cut patches. All we did as we said, we've gone along with normal olive drab, the darker colour, and just gone around and sort of mottled it all up a little bit. But as you can see, we're grey on the underside, green on the top with the little ones. So what we can do is afterwards we can put in other panels and do other types of weathering. But we've put in a bit of a band here as if she had a bit of touching work, and things like that. At the same time, we've gone along, obviously we've got the tail planes, they're all done and ready to go on, so they can just literally be a push fit in, and you can glue them on now. But what we've got to do is something that's quite important on all aircraft of this sort of generation, is the de-icing boots. Now, de-icing boots are these black strips that go on the leading edge of wings. Obviously you get water vapour, sub-zero temperatures, it builds up and can be a nightmare for most aircraft. So the Liberator's got quite a few of them. Obviously runs on these wing sections in here, right the way through. It's on the tails, around this curve of the tails. This is what this black is around them. So we need to do that. Easiest way for that is to take some, you know, you can basically use any type of tape thickness you like, but I'm going to just use 6mm just to show you. So all we're going to do is just going to come along. We just do this outer one. Check your references to how the actual icing boots go on. Is it the whole of the wing or is it just the front part? I'm assuming it's just the front panel line. It's the first panel line as it runs through. Okay, so we've got that in. So we just push that down. We can do the same on the other side. We'll just do it to this outer section so you can see. Okay, so we'll just, same thing again, using that first panel line. Okay, and then if it has got a little curve, you can pop them in. And then what we've got to do is obviously the outers. So we just stick that on, like so. Wrap it around the top. Now the other thing as well, there is a line on this wing here. Okay, so for that we're going to use, got a little bit of 1mm jammy dog tape. This is the nice thin blue stuff. Okay, now you're not going to need tons of this, so just take a little notch off of that. Okay, now find the centre panel as it runs through. If you look at your references you'll see it, but it's this centre one. Okay, just do a run round and pop it on like that. Now I've just got to do the inside area as well, so what we'll do, we just grab some scissors, there's a mess everywhere, just going to snip a tiny little part in the middle. This will just help it conform around here a little bit, find the centre. Okay, and it's going to wrap around, and hopefully you can, if we bring you in a little bit, you can see how we've, by using the little slit as we've gone in there, the camera to focus, there we go, you can see it just helps it conform around. And then obviously once that first bit's on like that, you can just come along here with a little bit of 40mm, wherever it is. Now just be careful how you spray this on, but what we're going to do, just take some normal flat black. We're not going to be using any thinners in this, just straight forward, straight away in. So we're just going to need a tiny bit, so don't go flooding your colour cup full of black paint. Okay, blow some of this through when you're happy. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just literally braid it off, just like so, and then what we're going to do, come along from the other side, we want it to be a nice flat area, so as long as you've got all the front done like that, just cut the air, dry this down. If you let it dry just for a couple of minutes, but this is really just to show you exactly what we've got. So let's say we'll keep these bits just to one side. It will show you exactly what we've got. And there we have our icing boot done. Put on there just like we were after. Shows it in there very nicely. Just like so. So what we've got to do, we've got to do another one in here and in here. Okay, then we're going to work our way right the way around them all to put them all on. So we're just like this. Then we're going to do the same back here on the back end. And then for the rudders, although it's a complex curve, if you have got some 6mm, it's quite easy. Let's get quite a bit here because we want to do this in one. But all we're going to do, you sort of put it on where you want it to go. Okay. We bring in the camera in a little bit. Okay, so we've got it in, and then all we do is you pull it and stretch, and just very, very slowly walk it right the way around as you go. But it's this sort of pinch and pull, so you hold, pinch and pull. Straight bit. As I say, it's like a stretching motion. It will slightly stretch, but you just take your time with it. And you can just literally walk it right the way around as you want to go. A little bit too much there. So what we'll do is just fill in this back area. Some leftover tape. Okay, all the way over, and there we go. That gives us our curve for doing the curved area. Same thing, both sides, and then we'll just airbrush that in exactly the same way. So I'm going to get on and get these done.